Hello and welcome to another episode of Force for Growth Live. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Courtney. Good morning. Happy Monday. And how are y'all? How are you guys
Man,
doing?
it was a long weekend. And now it's time to get right back into the thick of it, get into the routine of it, get things going back.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys real quick before we get
Yes.
started. What did y'all what dropped off during the holiday week? What dropped off last week that you need to get back up on and be on top of this week?
Everything.
Yeah. Priming, waking up early, eating healthy, you name it. Like
All
the whole
of the above. Yeah. I am very ready, though. Very happy that today is here to get
Mhm.
back on track on everything.
Because you're getting ready to get it going back and getting
Mhm.
started back. So what dropped off, Michelle? What's one thing specifically?
Eating healthy, which I am so ready to eat healthy again, which I have been today so far. But it makes such a difference in the way you feel, the way you sleep. Everything is better when you eat
Mhm.
healthy.
For me, it was water. I dropped off. I mean, wow. Talk about a significant difference when you don't drink enough water. Significant. What about you, Courtney? What dropped off? What's one thing that dropped off for you?
Waking up early. I think that just it trickles throughout my day, and not having my me time where it's structured and I kind of plan my day and prime my day. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that kind of, I don't know, it just creates like an uphill battle, when
Okay.
when you're
Yeah.
used to priming and when you're used to having a structured morning routine and rituals, and you don't do them, you feel it and you can see it. And so I can tell it's just that reminder again. Oh, you slipped out of it. Time to ramp back up and get into it. And plus, tomorrow is December 1st. So I'm a big fan of start a month early on your New Year's resolutions. Get your practice round done. And, statistically, December 1st is a really good time to start new habits, whereas January 1's not, if you look at the astrology behind it and things like that and kind of natural energy. So, reminder, excuse me, I have some allergies going on. But yeah, it's just December 1st. So that's a big thing to me is I've been kind of thinking on my big goals and
Get it
priming some
started.
of them. Yeah,
So
sticking with it.
as the mayor of Force for Growth City, I just made that up right now. So as the mayor of Force for Growth City, I officially declare the Monday after Thanksgiving Get Back on It Day.
Yes, I love that.
Every
That's-
Monday for the rest of our lives, I officially declare Get Back on It Day. Whatever you dropped off during the Thanksgiving holiday, it's time to get back on it. And
Yes.
ironically enough, we'll probably have another two, at least one more Get Up on It days here officially on Force for Growth City.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's just a reminder. There's no point that you can't not turn it around. You can figure out a way. You not being consistent is the only thing. So
Yes.
earlier the better.
Yes. Better
Yes.
now than never.
Exactly. So
Big shout out to Miss Sandy Stansel Holmes.
hello,
That's my
Sandy.
mom.
Hi,
Hi,
Mom.
You need to go back and watch the Black Friday sale.
Yes.
It was wonderful, divine.
It was
And
fun.
those offers are still on. We still have
Yes.
one left. If you
Yeah.
can figure out how to get through, we still have one. Only one.
We're
Ah.
saving it just for you.
We
Okay.
are. What's going on today, Courtney?
So it's Monday. So it's time for our word of the week. So we select our word of the week each Monday on our 6 a.m. calls by pulling a Do 52, stick that is stamped with a verb. Do 52 is a simple but powerful toolkit designed by House of Shine to prompt us weekly to do things mindfully and open ourselves up to new ideas. So our word this week is stay.
Boom.
Stay. So what do you got, Michelle?
Okay, so there are quite a few definitions of the word stay. One, obviously, is to stop going forward, to stop doing something, to continue in a place or condition, to stand firm, to take up residence, to keep even in a contest or rivalry, to call a poker bet without raising. And then there's the transitive verb to wait for, to stick or remain with, as in stay the course, which brought some discussion this morning. To remain during, to stop or delay the proceeding or advance of, by, or as if by interposing an obstacle. To check the course of, to quiet the hunger of, temporarily. So lots of definitions.
A lot going on there, guys.
There
But
is.
one thing that we found out just by thinking about it and discussing it is that stay for us has a positive meaning, an empowering meaning, and a disempowering meaning. So why don't we break this up a little bit? First, let's talk about how staying and stay is disempowering. How can the word disempowering or the thoughts around staying be disempowering to oneself?
Stagnation, thinking you're doing something when you're really not, because you're thinking on it a lot, and we fall into that trap a lot where we just don't actually do anything. We just think about it for a few years. And so stagnation is bad. That's kind of my rules. Just whatever you do, don't let it stay stagnant.
Ooh, that's good. I like it.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay stuck. That's one big one. You don't want to stay stuck. If you're not going anywhere with your life, you don't want to stay stuck.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay locked down to one place. You can't. What happens if you stay in one place too long? Not even physically. I'm not talking about physically. I'm not talking about staying in a house for 20, 30 years or staying at a job for 20, 30 years, which that could also come into play, as we all know. But I'm talking about more specifically about staying with the same mindset for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not even that it's really not that you even stay. You go backwards because you're losing time for growth. And so when you do stay in the same mindset, you're really going backwards instead of going forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't grow.
Mm-mm.
You don't.
And what fun is that?
There isn't. There is no fun in that.
No.
You can't. I mean, for me, myself, I have a problem staying still. And that's a problem. I'm going to go ahead and put that under the disempowering beliefs because there is a lot of power in staying still. And it's a struggle for me when I meditate to stay still, to stay in one place, to stay with one thought in my mind. It's hard. It's hard.
It is hard.
But it's a practice. It's a practice. Jessie says, staying with a fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to stay with a fixed mindset. She says, staying in negative feelings.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Yeah. So empowering. What is an empowering thought around stay? How can we reframe that?
Stay the course.
Yep.
I love that one. The one that stay authentic. And I like that because it's a lot of freedom around the word stay, but just stay authentic. You can do anything. You can figure it out.
Stay firm to your beliefs. Stay firm to your convictions. Stay firm with doing what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
stay open-minded. I forget who said that this morning, but stay open-minded.
Yes. Stay healthy.
Yeah. Yep. So Martha had asked earlier, what's consistent? So stay consistent. That's a big struggle that I have that I've been really focusing on lately is staying consistent in action toward my goals or whatever it is that I'm wanting to implement.
What's hard about it, Michelle? What's hard about staying consistent?
Man, that's a good question. I'm in the process of figuring that out. Like, why is it so hard to stay consistent? Sometimes I think we lose our, our why, or maybe our why changes, or it's not strong enough, and we need to look deeper for intrinsic motivation toward our goal. Because once that motivation is there, which leads to momentum, motivation only gets you so far. This is Courtney's topic, but motivation only gets you so far. But you have to find that motivation that leads to momentum. And I think that's part of what's hard about being consistent is maybe you don't have the proper intrinsic motivation.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. What does being consistent mean to you? And I'm just talking to Michelle, so anyone else listening, just go ahead and stop listening right now because she's the only one in the world that has struggled with this and has issues being consistent. Nobody else, just
Nobody
Michelle.
else, just me. I'm the only one with this problem.
This is such a good question. And to be honest, I've never really had asked that. And that's maybe why I struggle with being consistent, which kind of takes me back. So I'm like, okay, I've never clearly defined it, which when we think about it, it's awkward. It's literally taking on rapid growth. And so we're ignorant to think we're not going to have all the growing pains as it goes along, you
So
know.
answer the
So
question, Courtney. What does being consistent mean to you? What does consistent mean to you?
just keep showing up. Keep showing up. Don't let the feedback hold you back. Don't let the feedback be what drives you, because someday that's going to change. Someday they're not going to be tooting your horn, you know? So um, that I'm thinking the Untethered Soul and the Four Agreements right now, but both pertain to this. You have to find your voice and charge and figure it out, because you're going to fall on your face. That's a guarantee. You're not going to know what to do. That's a guarantee. So going into it being scared of those things are silly, but that's how we do it, you know? So for me, that really strikes a chord, because that's what's worked, is just keep showing up, because I've done it right and I've done it wrong, you know, and I'm probably going to do it wrong again. And I'm probably going to figure out how to do it right again. So just be willing to show up and be willing to recognize when you're just done, when you're doing it for other reasons. And you know what? I don't need to prove myself over here anymore. So I just am done with that phase of my life. And that's okay. You know, we struggle with that. And it takes up a lot of precious energy that it shouldn't.
It does.
If we look at
I'm gonna add to that too. Keep showing up day after day after day after day after day. I think that's important. And that's where that's the biggest struggle I have is I'll show up, but then I stop and then I come back and I'm stop. And it's not that consistency. So I think day after day. And then I had another thought and I lost it. So I'm gonna.
So here's the question, Michelle.
raise
Let
your
me
hand
go.
when it comes back.
We're talking about staying consistent. All right. So this is kind of where this conversation has evolved with the work stay, and we'll come back to some of the comments here shortly, but I want to keep this on track right quick. When you think about staying consistent, when you think about being consistent, what rules, how do you measure that? And then you went a little bit deeper already by saying showing up day after day after day, but what does that really mean? What does that mean? Are those rules that you have set up for yourself that define showing up easy to do or super difficult, complicated, complex, and convoluted?
So that brought back my thought that I had lost. And that to me is staying consistent until the results show up, because sometimes it takes a while. And I don't know if you guys have heard the analogy of the popcorn. It's like consistency, you know, creating habits, the power of what is the book about consistency, basically. Oh, what is that book called?
The Power of Habit.
Atomic Habits? No.
Yes. It might come to me in a minute, but basically it's talking about when you show up day after day after day after day over the long term, the compound effect. The compound effect is the book. So that compound effect happens over time, but at the beginning, you don't, as far as measuring those results, you don't see it. And that popcorn analogy is it's like you put the bag of popcorn in the microwave and you turn it on, and it's typically 3 minutes. For that first minute, nothing happens. But there's the same amount of effort going into popping those kernels as there is in the second minute and the third minute. But that first minute, nothing happens. There's no results. But if you keep it in there and you stay consistent and keep that power going, in the second minute, you start to have a pop and then another pop and then a pop. And then if you keep it in there and you keep going and stay consistent, then in that third minute, it's like pop, 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 pop. So you've got to stay the course and stay consistent. and you're not going to see results immediately. But if you stay the course, stay consistent, then that compound effect starts to happen over time. And then you start to see the results. But if you quit, you'll never see the results.
Yes. And this goes right here to Mr. Ryan Warren's comment. One of my college baseball coaches told me often, what you do most of the time says more than what you do rarely. Example, making an error. What do you do most of the time? What do you do rarely? However, the one thing I want to really say here is the rules. You have a rule. There's an inherent rule that you may or may not have explored about what being consistent means to you, what showing up means to you. There's a rule. And we can either make those rules really complicated, convoluted, and complex to achieve, or we can make those rules nice and simple. So you don't want to make it too hard, because otherwise, based on your own rules, you'll never really actually be consistent or actually be showing up if you have these complex rules around it, these hard to achieve rules around it. However, if you make it too simple, then you're not challenging yourself. So there has to be a middle ground to where it's achievable, doable, and that you can achieve that level of that you can achieve it, that you can do it, that you can show up based on your own rules, based on your own definition of showing up, but based on your own definition of being consistent, right? Because go ahead.
Sorry.
You're good.
I think sometimes too, and coming up, New Year's resolutions are coming up.
Oh,
like the vast majority of people do not stick to their New Year's resolutions. And it's because of exactly what you're saying. They make it way too complicated. They try to change everything all at once. And so if you dial it back and keep it simple and doable, then you can tackle that one thing, make it a habit, and then add the next thing. And then tackle that, make it a habit, then add the next thing. And you'll get so much further along if you'll do that than if you try to change everything at once. Most people are going to quit when they do that.
Correct. Because they try to change their eating habits, their workout habits, their lifestyle all in one day.
Yeah. And that's a reverse of how we can do it. But to highlight, and I guess to follow the formula, because we're doing creating lasting change right now. But what is your limiting belief around being consistent? So what Ricardo was talking about, there's a line. So I would argue that that line is your limiting belief around consistency. We all have one because we all struggle with it. So, and I can't even think of mine right now because I'm talking about it, but give me a second, but basically we need to identify that limiting belief that holds us back. Like, oh, I'm never consistent, or, oh, I always fail at being consistent, or that's what I struggle with. We've used it on this podcast. Like all three of us have said something like that. So we need to identify that and then flip it. Like, know that when you take out a thought, you need something to replace it with, because it's going to be awkward at first. You're going to think it and then be like, and then you're going to shame yourself for thinking it and blah, blah. So instead, if you just have a tool ready that's like, no, I am consistent when I'm passionate about something or whatever, that adds an empowering feeling behind it, So I think exactly what Michelle said, little bit by little bit, and then exactly what Ricardo said, there's a line. So it's really simple. It's not easy.
Correct.
That's where we get it wrong. Nobody said it was easy, but it is simple. It's only a few steps.
Correct. Ryan says, that's so good. Keep consistency simple. We don't want to keep it simple, but we don't want to make it hard. That's the only caveat there. We don't want to keep it super simple to say, okay, showing up and being consistent means that I take one sip of water every day. No.
Yeah.
We don't want to set that kind of simple rule. But yet we don't want to make it super complicated and say, I'm going to drink 150 ounces a day, and that's what I'm going to define as being consistent and showing up.
Yeah. And I think Ryan makes an amazing point here. He says, my limiting belief is that my consistency should look exactly like someone else's.
Oh.
Bingo. That is one I think we are all guilty of at times, and it will slip up again.
And if you want to stay the course, if you truly want to stay the course, you can't stay the course. You can't stay the course by somebody else's roadmap.
Right. Exactly.
I want to go back and look at, there's some other So Jesse says staying grounded, some other positive ways of the word stay, staying grounded. And then she says, stay with your word. And mom, Sandy, says, stay focused, stay true, stay motivated. Those are great positive examples of the word stay.
Yes.
Mhm.
One that I saw earlier today, again by Ryan. Ryan is bringing it today.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge difference in being stuck and growing your roots into something healthy. How do y'all tell the difference? That is a great question, Ryan. Let's talk about that.
Do you feel lighter or heavier? Does it drain you or does it fill you up?
One
When you-
thing that came to mind was the plant, my plant, my
Yeah.
plant. So I have a little plant over there, a lucky bamboo tree that I've talked about from time to time here on this podcast. And it was in a little confined vase, and the roots didn't have anywhere to go. So it kind of reached its max. It wasn't going to grow anymore until I put it in a bigger vase so the roots could expand. The minute that I put it in the bigger vase, the roots started expanding. It started shooting up, and it's growing, and it's growing great. And there's a lot of room in this new vase for it to grow. Now, physically, it's in the same place. It has not moved location. Physically, it's still in my office. It's by the window. Physically, it's still in the same place and staying in the same place because it can't move, but it's continuing to grow. It's continuing to grow. And it's going to continue to grow as long as it has what? Room to grow.
Room to grow.
Yes. So I think that's one of the big things is you can grow your roots into something healthy as long as you're continuing to grow. But just because you're in the same place doesn't mean that you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the evidence is kind of like what Courtney said, but it's in the energy. What kind of energy are you existing in? If it's negative energy, darkness, what's the word that you used, Courtney?
Drain or
Yes.
make you feel heavy. Any heavy
Yeah,
feelings.
heavy. Yes. If you're in that energy, then you know something needs to shift. So you may be stuck, but you're not really stuck anywhere, anytime. It's just a decision to stay there.
Yes,
And then
you're
you
not
gotta
really
just
stuck.
make a decision to move. Yeah.
All right, Michelle, one way, one tip, one thought on staying grounded. How can someone stay grounded?
Okay, I'm gonna go to my word discernment. Because I think authenticity, like staying true to who you are, who you were meant to be, and moving away from what others, worrying about, addiction, approval, worrying about what other people think, staying true to who you are, you feel that. And you're in that positive energy when you're there. But when you try to be someone else for the benefit of other people, then it is that negative, heavy feeling, heavy energy. So I think discerning by listening to your inner spirit, how does this feel? Pay attention to the energy. You're going to stay grounded whenever you follow that energy, when you follow what the spirit tells you, discernment.
Good.
Mhm.
Thank you, Michelle. Courtney,
Okay.
one
Grounded.
tip. Nope. Yours is different.
Okay.
Well, that's just not fair.
Oh.
Like you had this whole time to think about it while Michelle was talking. What fun is that?
That's no fun at all. Okay.
No, not at all. So for you, Courtney, stay focused. How can you stay focused?
There's we get to pick our stay. So we get to pick, stay focused, stay motivated. So there's a lot of power in that. So if you really take time to figure out what you're passionate about, or at least give yourself permission to start that journey and figure it out on the side, you don't have to quit your day job, but just kind of start taking steps forward into what does give you passion, because that's going to drive you, or where you want to make a big difference. Or so figure out your natural triggers for focus. Like, what do you need to just kind of be around, and you are channeling so much more. Find those sweet spots or honey spots. I forget who I was listening to lately. Like, that's a honey spot. So basically find the natural focus, but know, and I say this fully putting myself up in the front, that it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard at times to stay focused. And you need to figure out what your natural habits are that hold you back, what your limiting beliefs are around that. And I would say I'm in the thick of this and just really figuring out kind of the core roots. And I've been working on this for years. So, but sometimes you need to break up your focus. Sometimes you need to just do a few hours here, and you need to get up and move around and walk around the block, or, things like that. So really break down what works and try new things, try it out, try a hardcore 8 hours straight at the computer. Didn't work for me. I need to get up and walk around. I need to do other things, but like things like having my animals close by are really helpful for me. I don't know. So you really figure out what makes you tick and what can make you tick better and more efficiently and more productive. But yeah, finding that natural focus and that passion is the big one. Because if you never can get focused with your job, are you in the right job? Maybe you're in the right industry, but maybe you're in the wrong job, So it's all kinds of things like that, back to what Ryan said, it doesn't look like what everyone else's map looks like. It never worked for me. I tried dozens of different types of maps. I tried type A maps, type B maps, like you name it. And it never worked until I figured out my map. And that's ever evolving, So focus. Good. Yeah.
And let me see. I'll take stay true. This is good. This is super simple. You know when you're being fake. You inherently know when you're being fake. You inherently know when you're forcing something to happen. You know this. You know when you're forcing it because you want to put it out there and show out and be like so-and-so and so-and-so because someone else is doing it. You know this. And if you're just doing it because so-and-so is doing it, now you're just following the Joneses. That's not being authentic. That's not being true. And you know this. Oh, that looks good. So I'm going to do just what they did because they're getting a lot of likes. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. So let me look for opportunities for this and that and the other to generate buzz. Fake buzz. That's just fake buzz. It's not going to last. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable when you're doing it for show. If you're doing it from an authentic place where you're actually looking to share value, where you're actually looking to make a difference, where you're actually looking to make an impact, it comes from inside. It comes from your soul. It comes from your heart. It comes from your giving spirit, not from the idea that, ooh, I have to share this, that, or the other because so-and-so is doing it. And I see that they're getting a lot of likes and a lot of comments, and I want that too. You can't force it.
It's I promise natural.
You. Yes, it's natural. You'll get a lot further when you're being true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll get a lot further when you're staying true instead of just trying to copy what someone else is doing.
Yeah. And it's okay. So like if you're talking manifestation language, you're removing resistance when you go about it that way. So things will happen a lot more naturally and a lot more in your favor. If you're talking business, you're going to grow so much faster because you're willing to stay the course. So it's just really empowering to design it.
It is.
Versus be a victim of fill in the blank. It
is. Yeah. Powerful word, stay.
Yes.
And the only thing that keeps running through my head is the song, will you stay or will you go? Or is it, will I stay or will I go? I don't even know.
Mine is the song that Tamara sang this morning, stay just a little bit longer. And I'm not going to sing.
Yeah, I'm not going to hit that high note, but I'm thinking of a Jackson Browne live cover of it.
Courtney, there's still a big request for you to sing Let It Go. So you need to pull out those lyrics and learn the song.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Y'all, no. She didn't even consider it.
You're
for
like,
a second.
No. I'm
I
not
got
saying
things
that.
to do. I will do a lot for you guys, but
not sing Let It Go.
No, years of voice lessons, never. Y'all want to know how? Okay, so like I literally in high school, I would do these recitals with the vocal coach. Which shout out to Mark Molyneux, he is amazing. I'm still Facebook friends with him, but he was like the best therapist / like vocal coach ever. And anyway, but like I would do these recitals, and like I couldn't eat for days beforehand. Like I couldn't. It was more because they were probably like these opera. Like I'm trained in that way, but. Yeah, it was just one day I decided, well, I come from a musical family, so I thought I needed to be in the spotlight with them. I thought I needed to be this amazing singer like my sister, this musician like my dad, And so one day I was just like, oh, I don't have to do that? Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that. So to me, it's an empowering thing to be like, I'm not going to sing for you because I don't have to. I don't need to. Been there, done that. Sorry you missed the shows. Sorry, but
fair enough. Fair enough.
So,
fair
hey.
enough.
But I love that you push
it.
me when I'm scared of things. But yeah, I'm never going to perform a full no. But good times.
I love it.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Oh, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, as the official mayor of Forest for Growth City, I declare today, get back on it day.
Yes. And tell us what your big goal is that you're starting tomorrow, December 1.
Ooh.
Not January 1. So, yeah.
Yes. And we'll be back on Wednesday for another episode.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.